They lied to you about death, not metaphorically, not symbolically. They actually lied to you. For generations, we were told that death is the end, the final curtain, the silence after the last breath. But that was never the truth. Buried in the archives of the CIA, hidden for decades, is a document so shocking, so quietly powerful, it threatens to unravel everything we've ever believed about life, death, and what lies beyond. This isn't science fiction. This isn't a theory. This is a declassified CIA file known as the Gateway Process, and it confirms what mystics, sages, and ancient schools of wisdom have whispered for centuries. Consciousness does not die. It doesn't vanish. It evolves. It expands. It returns. We were taught to fear the void, to mourn the unknown, to believe that what awaits us is nothingness. But what if the void is not empty at all? What if it's the doorway, the gateway, to something far more real than this physical world? Why would the CIA study altered states of consciousness? Why would a government agency spend years decoding out-of-body experiences, brainwave synchronization, and astral projection? And more importantly, why did they keep it from you? This isn't just about what happens after death. It's about who you really are, beyond flesh, beyond time, beyond fear. It's about the hidden power of your mind, your spirit, your eternal self. What you're about to hear may challenge everything. It may shake your foundations, and it may also awaken something deep within you, something ancient, something waiting, something true. Stay with me, because once you see what's been hidden in plain sight, you can't unsee it, and you'll never think about death or life the same way again. They didn't want you to know this, and maybe they still don't. But decades ago, buried deep inside the vaults of US intelligence, a secret was quietly unfolding, one that challenges everything you thought you knew about life and what comes after. The CIA, an institution built on logic, secrecy, and cold strategy, poured classified funding into something that sounds like science fiction: out-of-body exploration, remote viewing, interdimensional travel. This wasn't a fringe experiment. It was official. It was sanctioned. It was serious. Through a now declassified initiative known as the Gateway Process, researchers sought to unlock altered states of consciousness, not for relaxation, not for healing, but for something far more profound: escape. Escape from the body. Escape from time. Escape from the illusion. They used binaural audio frequencies, layered waves that synchronize the brain hemispheres, to unhook the consciousness from the physical self, to allow the mind to travel, to roam, to witness. Yes, they trained agents to see beyond walls, beyond geography, even beyond the third dimension. But the question no one's asking is the most disturbing of all. Why would the CIA, of all organizations, care about what happens after death? Why would a government agency, rooted in the tangible and tactical, spend millions researching the soul's journey after the body ceases? Is it curiosity, control, or something much darker? Because if what they discovered is true, then death is not the end, and what lies beyond is not empty. It's structured, alive, and aware. Some former insiders described their findings as a holographic universe, where consciousness exists outside of linear time, where what we call reality is a projection, and our souls are players in a game we forgot we entered. Others hint at interdimensional entities, beings that observe us, nudge us, and sometimes possess us. And yet, the public was never told. These documents were buried. The terminology was dense, technical, obscuring more than revealing. But now that the files have surfaced, we're left with something even more unsettling. If our governments know there is something beyond, why keep it hidden? Could it be that the afterlife isn't just spiritual, it's strategic? Could death itself be a frontier that nations are racing to conquer? And if so, where does that leave you? You were told to fear death, to deny it, to pretend it's unknowable. But the truth, they've been studying it, mapping it, using it. So ask yourself, who benefits from your ignorance? And more importantly, what happens when you finally awaken to the truth? Because once you glimpse what they've tried to hide, you don't go back. You begin to see patterns. You begin to remember. You begin to know. The veil is thin now, and they can't stop what's coming. Not anymore. Stay with us. We're just getting started. What if everything you've ever believed about death is a lie? What if that final breath isn't the end, but a doorway? Hidden deep within a once classified CIA document lies a truth so profound, so shattering to the mainstream narrative, it challenges everything we know about life and beyond. This document doesn't speculate. It declares, death is not the end. It is a shift, a recalibration of frequency, a movement, not into nothingness, but into the next octave of existence. Consciousness, according to this report, doesn't fade into silence. It vibrates. It transitions. Like tuning a radio from one frequency to another, our awareness simply shifts channels. And when you understand this, when you truly see it, the fear of death dissolves, because you realize you are not your body. You are not your name. You are energy, pure, intelligent, eternal energy. And energy never dies. This idea is not new. It is ancient. Long before the CIA, long before modern science, the mystics of Tibet, the priests of ancient Egypt, and the sages of India knew this truth. They didn't just believe it, they experienced it. In the Bardo Thodol, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, death is described not as an ending, but as a passage through dimensions of mind and soul, a transition space, a waiting room of consciousness. The ancient Egyptians spent their entire lives preparing for the afterlife, not because they feared it, but because they understood it. To them, the soul was a traveler, and death was simply the moment the journey truly began. And in the Vedas, the oldest spiritual texts of India, the Atman, the true self, is described as indestructible, beyond birth, beyond death. The body dies, the form changes, but the essence continues. Now, in our modern age, a CIA document echoes these timeless truths. It uses the language of frequency, vibration, and resonance, but its core message is ancient. Consciousness is not bound to the body. It is not destroyed by death. It moves. We've been taught to fear the void, to cling to this life as if it were the only one. But what if the void isn't emptiness, but expansion? What if death is not a loss, but a liberation? Ask yourself, why was this document hidden? Why were these ideas buried, ridiculed, erased from the mainstream? Because if we no longer fear death, we become ungovernable. If we know we are eternal, we cannot be controlled. This is not about belief. This is about awakening. You felt it, haven't you? That quiet sense that there's more, that the world you see is not all there is, that your dreams, your déjà vu, your inexplicable knowing are echoes from another frequency. The CIA document is not just a revelation, it's a confirmation. You are not here by accident, and you are not gone when your heart stops. You are part of something vast, unseen, eternal. And now that you know, the question is, what will you do with this truth? Will you dismiss it as fantasy, or will you begin the journey of awakening? This is not the end. This is only the beginning. Welcome to the other side. What if everything you've ever believed about time was a lie? What if the ticking of the clock, the passing of days, the memories you hold of before, and the dreams you cast into later are all just projections, constructs of a limited human perception trapped in a linear framework? Because time is not linear, and deep within the shadows of hidden knowledge, buried under decades of secrecy, buried in CIA documents now declassified, lies a truth so earth-shattering it challenges the very foundation of reality. You see, beyond the physical senses, beyond this waking world, lies a deeper current, where past, present, and future bleed into one another. According to the once classified gateway process, consciousness doesn't move through time, it transcends it. And in moments of death, moments when the physical body releases its grip, this truth becomes undeniable. In near-death experiences, NDEs, reported across cultures and across time, people don't simply see their life flash before them. They live it all at once. They describe stepping into a realm where every decision, every heartbeat, every moment they've ever lived or will live unfolds in perfect simultaneity. Time collapses. What we call the afterlife is not after at all. It simply is. This isn't poetic metaphor. It's been studied, researched, hidden. The CIA's gateway process isn't fiction. It's a chillingly real program aimed at mapping human consciousness, where agents themselves explored altered states that bend time, space, and self. And one of the most guarded revelations, that death allows consciousness to detach from the illusion of sequential time and step into a field of infinite presence. Why would this truth be kept from you? Because when you realize time is an illusion, control begins to unravel. Systems built to keep you obedient, to chase the future, regret the past, and fear the end, no longer hold power over an awakened mind. You start to see that your essence was never bound to a ticking clock. You were never a victim of too late, or not yet. You've always been here, in all places, in all moments. Imagine what it means, what it really means. If your death is not an end, but a re-entry, if your soul, in its truest form, is a timeless traveler, then every limitation you've accepted shatters. The world around you begins to distort. History stops being history. The future is no longer unknown. You begin to remember that everything is now, that you're not waiting for something to happen. You are already in it. You always were. But this truth is not easy. It demands you unlearn. It demands you feel beyond logic, see beyond vision, and know beyond proof. This is the call to awakening, not to chase immortality, but to remember it. Because if time is an illusion, then so is death. And once you see that, there's no going back. Have you ever wondered why so many near-death experiences echo the same vision? A blinding light, a presence too vast, too knowing to be human, a voice that isn't heard, but felt. What if that light isn't just a tunnel? What if it's a mirror? In the hidden corridors of CIA archives, buried beneath layers of redacted reports and classified studies, lies a document, one that dares to suggest that what comes after death isn't darkness, but disclosure, a revelation, a remembering. When the body falls away and the heartbeat stills, what remains? Not just your memories, Not just your thoughts, but you, unfiltered, untethered, and finally, unmasked. This is where the ego, the mask you've worn for lifetimes, begins to dissolve. You are no longer the role you played. You are no longer the name they gave you. This is what mystics called the ego death, not destruction, but liberation. And then comes the light. But here's the part they never told you. The light doesn't judge you. The light doesn't punish. The light waits. Because the light isn't some external entity in the sky. It's you, or rather, the higher you, the part of you that watched silently through every heartbreak, every decision, every betrayal, and every moment of grace. The light may appear as a guide, an angel, a loved one, or even a divine being. But what if that form is shaped by you? What if, in that timeless space beyond breath, the world you enter is molded by the very beliefs you held while alive? Christians see Jesus, Buddhists see the lotus, atheists see nothingness, until something begins to form from it. Because reality beyond death is not fixed. It's fluid. It's forged by faith, carved by thought, and projected by the consciousness that survives. And that consciousness is infinite. The CIA documents didn't dare go this far, but the patterns in the testimonies, the consistency in the metaphysical studies, all whisper the same truth. You create your own afterlife, your heaven, your hell, your purgatory, all illusions built upon your inner architecture. And that light, that entity, it is you, but a version of you that never forgot, never feared, never lied to itself. This is why some return from near death forever changed, because they met themselves. They were shown everything, without filter, without shame, not as punishment, but as awakening. The question is, when you meet your light, what will it show you? And more importantly, who will you be? This is not a story about death. It's a story about truth. A truth that has been hidden, encrypted in symbols, passed down in esoteric texts, buried in ancient philosophies, and now, slowly, leaking through cracks in our official reality. You were never just a body. You were never just a name. You are the dreamer behind the dream, the light behind the shadow, the creator of the afterlife you've always feared or always hoped for. So the next time you hear about the light at the end of the tunnel, don't ask what it is. Ask why it feels like home. They don't want you to know this. Not your government, not your priest, not your favorite newscaster with the polished smile. Because if you truly knew what happens after death, you would become uncontrollable. Fear is the greatest weapon ever created. Not bombs, not guns, but fear, especially the fear of dying. It has been carefully woven into every layer of your life, from cradle to grave. From the moment you could understand words, you were told what to fear. And death, it was the ultimate horror, a black void, an eternal punishment, a vanishing point. But what if that was all a lie? What if the truth had been hidden, not because it wasn't known, but because it was too dangerous to reveal? According to this now declassified CIA document, they've known for decades, death is not the end. The soul does not vanish. Consciousness persists, expands, transforms. And if that's true, then everything changes. If you are more than flesh, if your existence stretches beyond this body, this name, this identity, then no one can hold power over you. No one can threaten you into submission. No one can use fear to bend your will. So ask yourself, why has every major system in the world, governments, organized religion, corporate media, spent centuries reinforcing this fear? Why are we shown violence and death in every movie? Why are we told to obey in exchange for salvation? Why is death always associated with silence, darkness, nothingness? Because a society that fears death is a society that follows orders, a society that questions nothing, a society that trades freedom for safety, truth for comfort, awakening for illusion. But what if the veil was lifted? What if you began to remember that you are not this fear, that you are not this body, that you have always been something more? The systems of control only work when you forget who you are, when you forget that you were never meant to serve, you were meant to awaken. And that's exactly what they fear, because an awakened soul is the most dangerous thing in the world. It cannot be bribed, it cannot be broken, it cannot be owned. So now you must choose. Stay asleep, wrapped in fear, obeying shadows, or wake up, start asking the forbidden questions, start seeing through the illusion, start remembering. Because once you know the truth, once you feel it in your bones, there is no going back. And that's when the real journey begins. The journey to who you've always been. The journey beyond death. They told you that you have to wait, that death is the doorway, that only after your last breath will the truth be revealed. But what if that was never true? What if the veil they say only lifts at death was never really there at all? You see, there's a silent war being waged around your soul, not with weapons or fire, but with distraction, illusion, forgetfulness. Every billboard, every screen, every rule you've been taught is designed to make you forget who you are, not who you are on paper, not your name, your job, your roles, but what you are beneath it all, a consciousness, timeless, vast, and free. They don't want you to know that liberation doesn't begin in the afterlife. It begins now, here, with this breath. Because the truth is, you are not trapped. You are only asleep. And the tools to awaken have been in front of you all along. Meditation is not just for monks in caves. It is a portal, a realignment with your true essence. Each inhale, each exhale, returns you to the present, where the illusion cannot survive. Lucid dreaming isn't just entertainment. It is your training ground, where your subconscious speaks in symbols, and you begin to walk the threshold between worlds. Astral projection is not a myth. It's an ancient technology of the soul. You've already felt it in your dreams, that sensation of floating, of being more than your body. That wasn't fantasy. That was memory. Every mystical path, every esoteric school, every hidden manuscript they tried to bury says the same thing. You don't have to wait for death to be free. The matrix you live in is built from lies. And one of the greatest lies is that heaven is later. It's not. It's here, but hidden. Hidden behind the chaos, behind the noise, behind the conditioning. You are taught to fear silence, to avoid stillness. But silence is where the soul speaks. Stillness is where the door opens. You can wake up. You can pierce the illusion. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. But it begins with a choice, a decision to turn inward, to question, to listen, to remember. They will say you're delusional. They will say it's all in your head. Let them. Because while they argue over shadows, you will be learning to see the light. You are not just a passenger in this life. You are the traveler and the path. And the time to begin is not later. It is now. So, what are you waiting for? They told you reality is fixed, that what you see is what you get. But what if it's not? What if everything you've ever known is backwards? What if the world outside is not the source of your experience, but a reflection of something far deeper, something within? This document, long buried in the CIA's vaults, hints at a truth older than governments, older than religion, older than time itself. Consciousness does not come from the body. It does not die with the body. It is the architect of reality itself, not the other way around. Think about that. You were taught that your brain produces thought, that your mind is the accidental byproduct of a few pounds of gray matter. But the ancients, and now even those buried pages in government archives, whisper another truth, that consciousness is primary, that before atoms, before stars, before time, there was awareness, your awareness. And if that's true, then what is this thing we call death? If your consciousness isn't locked inside your flesh, if it isn't extinguished when the heart stops, then death isn't the end. It's a doorway, a transition, a return. But return to what? That's the question this document dares to answer, and the answer will leave you shaken, because when you understand that consciousness shapes reality, you realize something terrifying and liberating. You are not just a passenger in this life. You are the creator. Every thought, every emotion, every belief you hold is a seed, and those seeds grow into what? Into your world, into your version of reality, into the script you're living right now. So look around. Is this the life you chose, or the life you were programmed to accept? The hidden teachings say, this world is a kind of dream, not fake, not meaningless, but malleable, shaped by vibration, frequency, and attention. The CIA called it a hologram. The mystics called it Maya. Different words, same secret. And here's the twist. If you understand who you really are, if you awaken to the truth that your consciousness is eternal, not bound by this body or this timeline, then something miraculous happens. You stop being afraid, afraid of death, afraid of loss, afraid of change, because you begin to remember that you were never just a name, never just a job, never just a story someone else wrote. You are the awareness behind it all, the observer, the dreamer, the source. And suddenly, the veil thins, the fear dissolves, and what's left is peace. The kind of peace that can't be given by any government, the kind of freedom that can't be taken away. And once you taste it, even once, the old world can never chain you again. So now the question changes. It's no longer, what is death? It's not even what is consciousness. It's this. Now that you know, what will you do next? Will you return to sleep, to the old patterns, the same cycles, the same illusions? Or will you begin the real work, the work of remembering, the work of seeing, the work of creating? Because this isn't entertainment. This is initiation. You've been shown a doorway, not to another place, but to another understanding. Step through or walk away. But whatever you do, know this. Once you've seen the truth, you can never unsee it. And if you're ready to go deeper, if you feel the pull toward ancient knowledge, hidden truths, and the journey beyond the veil, subscribe to Path to the Unknown. This is just the beginning.